Hi friends, a quick preface to this video. Right as I was finishing up all of the editing, I was exporting the file, I realized the formula that I blended was not a free formula. This is a paid formula from Laboratorium. It's 10 euros. It's fantastic, but it is not mine to give away. So what I've done is I've scrubbed the video and I have removed any reference to the amounts of the materials that I put into the batch. I hope you enjoy the video. I hope you spend the 10 euros or whatever it is in your local currency for the formula. It's an outstanding formula. And otherwise, enjoy the video. Hi friends, welcome back. Today we are blending a free study formula from Laboratorium. Supposedly this is based on Kouros. We're going to see. I'm familiar with Kouros. I wear it a lot, especially in the spring. We're going to get a taste for whether or not Laboratorium nailed this formula. This juice was perfumed by the great Pierre Bourdon. And it was released in 1981. So long ago. I love this fragrance. Unfortunately, when I wear it, I have to plan on wearing nothing else because it lasts all day. All day long, I will smell like Kouros. So yeah, I got to know that that I want to wear one thing for the entire day. If I look at the formula, most of this is in solvents. Isn't that crazy? 41% are in solvents. Now, this is frustrating because I don't get to see what's in the juice if I have, if I consider the diethyl phthalate a salt, or if I consider it an ingredient. So what I'm going to do in Formulaire, I'm going to adjust the formula, or I'm going to adjust the material so that it removes the diethyl phthalate contribution. By the way, thank you to the commenter who taught me how to pronounce diethyl phthalate correctly. I appreciate it. So Formulaire does this cool thing where I can remove the solvents and then I can see what does the formula look like with the solvents removed. And here it looks very different. A lot of woody notes, a lot of musks, great. Some mossy leather green, okay. Ooh, some good florals in here, a good amount of florals, good amount of citrus and aromatic notes. Now this is technically an aromatic fougere, according to Fragrantica. However, I don't know if I would have called this an aromatic fougere if I was just smelling this and like had to come up with this, a category. This is pretty animalic. Notice this, I have an animalic category. 13% of the concentrate is in animalic notes. Most of this is animalis. It's a cinnamon base. So very, very interested to see how this goes. Let's go back to the formula. Check this out. Diethyl phthalate, 330 grams, 330 parts per thousand. Wild. Animalis, 60 parts per thousand. There's a lot of animalis. What other animalic notes do we have? Costus. Whew, we've got some costus. Great. Yeah, this is going to be interesting. So let me go back. I'm going to change this back into a formula ingredient. And let's start blending. Now, what I will start with are the solvents. I don't have diethyl phthalate. So what I'm going to substitute it with is dipropylene glycol. I'm also going to put in my Perfumer's alcohol. What we're making today, 8 grams at a 10% dilution. The end concentrate will be 10%. Now I am considering this dipropylene glycol, which is substituting the diethyl phthalate. I am pretending that this is not actually a solvent, that this is an ingredient. Let's get all of this in here. Started dripping before I started squeezing the pipette, but that's okay. It made it into the bottle. So let's add our ethanol right now as well. Right. I've got my ethanol. I've got my dipropylene glycol, and why don't I just give this a little shake? Okay. We're good. Let's tear this. I'm going to sort this by category because what we are going to start with is our, call it sweet, neutral fragrance base. Like not the base of the pyramid base, even though these are all base notes. It's the easy musks, the sandalwood, the vanillin, just kind of the easygoing stuff that is less about giving the formula character as it is about giving the formula support. So we're going to start off with Galaxolide. I'm using Galaxolide 50 here. And there's only, in this batch, there's only 0.08 grams. Gosh, I smell this. And what immediately comes to mind is Bacardi rum. That was weird. I've never, ever had that association before. But that's interesting. That's a new one. Thank you, Galaxolide. You have served me well. Next up, we are going to add our ambroxan. Here, 10% concentrate, but only 0.02 grams. For me, that means I need to get about a drop and a half, or a drop and a splash. I could have, nay, I should have used a 1% dilution because I do have a 1% dilution of ambroxan. But that's fine. I think that is fine. Okay. Next easygoing material, sandalwood. A wonderful sandalwood material. Doesn't pop as much as Bacthanol or Ebinol. How much is in here? There's only 0.025 grams at 10% of sandalwood. So just 2 drops really. Yeah, 2 drops will do it. Always using a new pipette. Should show you how many pipettes I go through. Okay, next, coumarin. Yeah, coumarin. This is probably contributing to the fougere core because coumarin is an important note in the classic fougere accord. Okay, wonderful. So what else goes in our fougere accord? We need some kind of moss note, which there is. We have veramoss. No oak moss, but there's veramoss. Next up, vanillin. The vanillin I'm using is at 1%. Oh, I'm almost at a 1% vanillin as well. I still haven't made a new dilution of 10% vanillin. Oh, and I'm smelling this. It's interesting that this vanillin at 1%, the way it's throwing out of the bottle into my nose, it almost smells stronger than the vanillin at 10%. It's funny how the nose works. Okay, last, tonalide, otherwise known as musk tetraline. And I like Tonalide. It's a beautiful musk. It has a little bit of a nitro musk quality to it, in that it is fatty. I wonder if in the original Kouros, Tonalide wasn't used, if perhaps musk ambrette or musk xylene was used. Okay, let us shake. Okay, let me dip. And then let us write. So we're just going to call this base 1. Okay. Going back to our original, hey, what's in a fougere accord? Well, we have our coumarin handled. We're about to get in our mossy note, the Veramoss. And then we need some kind of floral core, usually geranium. It's usually, I think, geranium, and we do have geranium in here. And then lavender up top. In this case, we have lavendim. So there certainly is the classic fougere notes. There's no amyl salicylate. Often I see salicylates, amyl salicylate particularly, in fougere accords, but suppose it's not always required. So next up, let's start with, I hesitate with one material. I want the woody, more woody, mossy, okay, Pyrrolone's going to go on it. Woody, mossy accord. Let us get this going. First, we're going to start with our cedryl acetate. Now, interesting how much cedryl acetate there is in here. Interesting that cedryl acetate was selected. Ooh, I'm about out. It's almost time for a new dilution. Should have some kind of bell that I ring, some celebration when I have to do a new dilution. Because it's kind of a big deal, especially with materials that I don't use that often. Cedryl acetate, funny enough, don't use that often. Most of the time, I'm just going straight to cedarwood from Virginia. Next, olibanum, particularly olibanum resin, or frankincense resin. This is the Somali stuff, so it's the Boswellia carteri, not Boswellia serrata. I believe I'm getting that right. And I like the resin. It's a bit more resinous, if you can believe it. There's a little bit more body to my nose. When I smell the essential oil, it smells a little bit brighter, a bit more terpenic, almost like there's this, dare I say, citrusy top note. It's just a little bright. There's a brightness to it. With the resin, there's a richness to it. And actually, as I'm smelling this, I am smelling Perry Ellis for Men, 1987. That's what I'm smelling out of this. I know that fragrance because I smelled it on my dad once when he was going on a date with my mom. And that's a weird scent memory because I remember that was in the early 90s. And so I was anywhere between 8 years old or 7 years old and 10 years old. And yet I vividly remember that smell. But I remember that smell. And I can't remember when I snuck in and checked out the bottle. But I remember the bottle. Years later, I didn't remember what the fragrance was called. And when I discovered Fragrantica, I searched and searched and searched and searched and finally discovered Perry Ellis for Men. I think I have a full liter of that juice now in my fragrance fridge down here. I've got actual fragrances here, not not materials, but I have a whole bunch of that vintage juice. They created a reformulation version of it a while, not too long ago, but I've got a bunch of that vintage juice. Just so I have the smell of my dad. All right, next up, patchouli. I have light patchouli. I put light patchouli because I believe the formula calls for decolorized patchouli. Don't have any of that. With the entire wall of glory, and I think I must have 10 patchoulis, not one of them is decolorized. Sorry. Sorry. But you know what? That's okay. It's funny also, let's think about this. Does decolorized patchouli smell different? It must, because what color is the bottle that Kouros comes in? Is it a clear bottle in which we need to put something that has no color because we want a clear juice? No, absolutely not. Especially if we're adding olibanum resin to it. No way. This is not going to be colorless. It's not even in a bottle that's colorless. Why would you need decolorized anything? But that's the formula. Okay, patchouli, light. And this is some pretty light stuff. This is from Eden Botanicals. This is one of the lighter patchoulis that I have as far as the color is concerned. The smell is very strong. Okay. A lot of patchoulis that I run into are around 30% patchoulol. 30, 35%, maybe 38% patchoulol. The higher patchoulol you get in your patchouli, the drier the patchouli smells. The more earthy, yes, but you know when you smell soil, there's not a lot of like heart to the soil. What you get is this like top note of dirt, you know? That's what it reminds me of. It's a little bit more herbal, but it's I get that dirty note when I smell patchoulol. Okay, next up, vetiver. Now this calls for vetiver from Java or from Indonesia, which is interesting. Not my favorite vetiver. It's dirtier. It's got a different personality than Haitian vetiver or bourbon vetiver. Now I've gotten, again, I have a 10% dilution here. Yeah. We've got two more. And hang with me here. We have Veramos and Pyrrolone. You might ask, why is isobutylquinoline going into the woody accord? Well, I have to put it somewhere. I have an animalic accord coming up. Pyrrolone doesn't seem right in that, given that the animalic accord that we're building is really fecal, really dirty. Pyrrolone has this dry, greenish woodiness up top that I think will tie in especially with the Veramos, because you know the Veramos has this beautiful, hardy core. It's a soft, mossy core, but there's a dryness to Veramos. There's an edge. There's a sheen to it. And I think the Pyrrolone will work well with that. So let's do our Veramos. 10% dilution. Okay. Next and last, Pyrrolone. Ooh. Yeah, it's strong, it's dry, it's leathery. But again, I think it'll work well. This is a 10%. That's about 1 drop with these pipettes. Great. Let's give this a shake. Remember, when I dip, you dip, we dip. And we can smell the addition of this accord. Let's do woody and moss. Number 2. Okay, next up. I am wondering if I want to save that animalic stuff for last, just so I can smell what this fragrance is like without that crazy fecal note. I think I'm going to do that. So where do we go from here? Let's keep working our way. Usually I like to do florals next. Florals to me add a nice heart to the fragrance. I like to save the aromatic notes because, again, for me, it just depends on the ratios. This really does depend on the ratios. Let's check out our ratios here. Yeah, there are more notes. There is more weight. There's more material in the floral notes than there is in the aromatic notes. So let's do the bigger boys first, and then we'll move along. With our floral accord, we are combining 3 different fragrance families, at least the way I classify them. You might do this differently. Take it with a grain of salt. To start, we have our jasmine/lily of the valley notes. This includes our hexyl cinnamaldehyde, hydroxycitronellal, leoral, and lilial. All of these are muguet notes. They are not really jasmine notes. They're those transparent, light, lifting, airy, beautiful stuff. Then we've got our violet note, and there's only one, methylenone gamma. And then to that, we add geranium, we add phenylethyl alcohol, so we have some rosy notes. These are just what I call generic florals, or I put them in the red category because flowers are red, right? Then we have neroli, which is kind of interesting because neroli could go floral, it could go citrus, it even could go a little woody. Neroli is an interesting piece. And then we have aurantiol. Pop quiz, Ryan, what is aurantiol? This is a Schiff base between methylanthranilate and hydroxycitronellal. Let me check that. Nailed it. Methylanthranilate, hydroxycitronellal. Wonderful. Feel good about that one. Okay, let us start with those. Let's start with the aurantiol. Why not? Here I've got it at 10%. This is some long-lasting stuff. Now, interestingly, I have not done my studies with regard to Schiff bases. This to me smells like an easy combo of both methylanthranilate and hydroxycitronellal. One more drop. This is a heavy material. This is a heavy stuff. All right, we're good. Let's do our neroli next. 10%. Oh, God, this is just so nice. It is. I am tempted to move this to the citrus section because this is so bright. This neroli is from Liberty Natural. It's from Tunisia. And this neroli isn't bad. I prefer the neroli that I get from the Perfumery. I've got a large bottle of neroli from the Perfumery. I think that stuff's wonderful. But I have the Tunisian neroli from Liberty Natural that I think is pretty good. I'll repeat, be wary of the Egyptian neroli. The last time I sampled that, something was wrong. And I haven't heard back from Liberty Natural as far as, was it me? Maybe it's not you. Maybe it's me, you know? But if it's me, then I'm breaking up with Liberty Natural's Egyptian neroli. Next, let's do our phenylethyl alcohol. Okay. I like phenylethyl alcohol. Yeah, 0.15 grams. I like phenylethyl alcohol because of how deep and rich it feels when I smell it. It's one of those materials that is strong, but it's strong like a slow-moving boulder down a gentle decline. Whereas you smell something like geranium, It's strong too. It cuts, but it's a bit, it's like a quicker, smaller rock rolling down a hill really fast. It's got more energy. It's got more zing. It's a beautiful floral note. Absolutely love geranium. A great floral note that comes from leaves. Ain't that cool? And I do like how green geranium is. You can smell some geraniums that are just intensely green, that smell really leafy. Okay, let's move on to our methyl-ionone gamma. Yeah. Yeah. The more and more I smell this, the more and more I'm starting to associate it with Coca-Cola. Funny how that works. Okay. Okay. Overdid that just a little, but no biggie. Next, we're moving into our muguet notes. We're going to start with our hexyl cinnamaldehyde. There's quite a bit of this stuff. Hexyl cinnamaldehyde is interesting. Oh, yeah, it's about time. This is interesting because not only is it muguet-like, lily of the valley-like, and jasmine-like, it's a little citrusy, almost like a citrus peel. Okay, we're good. Let me put it up here by my vanillin. Okay. Next, hydroxycitronellal. Now, when you're buying this material, make sure there's an AL at the end of it, because hydroxycitronellal is different than hydroxycitronellol. It is also much more common in fragrances. This material, I am still trying to figure out. I haven't yet gotten to all of these materials to evaluate and test how they interact with like other materials specifically, but in some scenarios, when I add hydroxycitronellal, I get this metallic fist right at the front of the fragrance. I've got to do more study because I'm not sure exactly what is it I'm pairing it with that is creating that effect. But it can give you a punch in the face occasionally. All right, next, let's do our Lilial. Lilial, alas, now banned in the EU, and it will be banned in California in the year 2027. Takes effect 2027. And I don't know why California banned it. I believe there were studies done on Lilial and showed this was had something to do with fertility. Only animal testing. I don't think there were human trials on the effects of Lilial, but in animal testing, there was some type of effect or potential effect at heavy doses, by the way. But there was some kind of effect on fertility, I believe. Next up, also banned in the EU, Liral. Also to be banned in California beginning 2027. And it's too bad because these are beautiful materials. Liral was banned because it's an allergen. Skin sensitivity. I used to kind of roll my eyes when I would hear about other people's allergies. I am one of those guys that I'm super lucky. I don't have allergies. I've had a couple allergic reactions in my life. I don't know what caused them. But in general, I don't have food allergies. You know, I'm extremely lucky. Being so lucky, when I was a younger lad, I would just kind of, roll my eyes at other people's allergies. I know, pretty shallow. But I didn't get it. I didn't understand it. And I didn't understand what it was like to have an allergy, live with an allergy, experience an allergic reaction in a very serious way. We're going to call this florals. Over time, as I got older, I just gained a little bit of empathy, a little bit of understanding, and then I had a boy who's got a peanut allergy and an egg allergy, and now I get to at least experience what it's like to constantly double check what it is that you're buying, that you're cooking, to make sure you're going to be safe, your family's going to be safe. And so now I'm a lot more understanding of like listing allergens on the back of perfume bottles, or even regulators saying, nah, maybe we should just take this off the market. And it is sad that we do lose some great fragrances to banned materials. But you know what's cool about humans? We're pretty darn creative, and new chemicals will be invented or discovered. New materials will be used in different ways. Tastes will change. Perfumers will adapt and create. And there are going to be some amazing fragrances in the future that we have to look forward to. So why be disappointed at what we lost when we can be so excited about what's ahead of us? Let's move on to our aromatic base, or aromatic core. Now I have a couple of extra fragrance families in our aromatic core. I have some green notes and I have some spicy notes. Let's start with the spicy notes. Now I grouped these all together really because to me, this is just all about adding personality and color to our fragrance. And I'm trying to save just a little bit of time with all of the dipping. So let's start with our eugenol. Wonderful. Eugenol, the odorous principle of clove. Speaking of clove, here's clove leaf. Clove leaf is nice. You still get the eugenol, but there's more of an herbal quality to it. And I get like hints of bread, like raisin bread is what comes to mind when I smell clove leaf. There are a couple other materials that make me think of raisin bread, but clove leaf is one of them. Let's get into our green materials before we go, all in to the aromatic notes. Let's do our galbanum resin, galbanum resinoid. This is a 5% dilution. I think it's 5 because when I purchased this at a 50% dilution, and everything I get when I initially started, everything I got, I would just dilute 10%. 10% of a 50% is 5%. So I accidentally created, this came around by accident. Which means I need just a little splash. And I love this galbanum resinoid because it truly is galbanum, but resinous and woody and thick and full and hearty. And it doesn't slap you in the face like galbanum oil. Galbanum oil, you have to be careful dosing like cumin because you put a little too much in there and all of a sudden you're getting an uppercut to your, your olfactive bulb. And so when I see galbanum resin, I have a sigh of relief because I know I'm not going to accidentally, put 1 drop extra and then I overdose galbanum. Next up, styrylyl acetate. Still am wondering, my friends. ChatGPT told me it's styrylyl acetate. Wondering what you think. I just need a little bit more. Okay. We move on to the big boys. Let's start with our lavandin. Lavandin Grosso. love this stuff. It's a lot like lavender, but without the blue cheese note. One, two. I can't say that lavandin or lavender are particularly strong. When you put them into a fragrance, they add a little body, a little support, maybe a little color, but you have to add a lot if you want to add a lavender note. You've got to add a lot. Or you just have to be mindful of what else you have in there so it doesn't get in the way. But yeah, that's my opinion. Next, Armoise. I believe the formula called specifically for Artemisia alba. Alas, I do not have Artemisia alba. I have Artemisia herba alba. It's a particular species of or what do you call it? Variant? It's a certain type of Armoise or Artemisia that grows in Morocco, or at least that they produce in Morocco. Okay. By the way, if you do not have Armoise or Artemisia or mugwort, it's all the same thing, you can use cedar leaf, or you can use wormwood. Most of what we're getting here is thujone. That's what we're getting there. And you can get thujone from wormwood and cedar leaf. Next, coriander. We're just adding up the lintel wall, aren't we? Okay, coriander seed. This is also a herbal, but a relatively clear. How do I say that? It's like almost like a transparent. Transparent. No, some of these herbal and aromatic materials are, I don't know, they're scratchy, they're really edgy, they're aggressive. Others are more subdued. You know, they hit in different places in your nose, front and back, top, you know, left, right, center. But coriander is nice. It's delicate. Again, I think it just adds a little bit of body, a little bit of color, a little bit of support without really changing the personality of your fragrance. Now, this stuff, on the other hand, estragol or methyl chavicol, is one of the key constituents of basil. I think it's also in licorice and fennel. This stuff is a little stronger. It's a little stronger than coriander, at least. And by a little, I mean it's stronger. It's a fair bit stronger. Don't mess with it. All right, let's do some fun ones. Rosemary. If I remember correctly, there's 1,8-cineol in rosemary, or eucalyptol, which helps give it that fresh yet kind of dirty, you know, dirtiness. Okay, last but not least, our friend dihydromercenol. Yeah. Love this stuff. So again, there's not a lot, but they're kind of like Captain Planet, all of these aromatic notes. Maybe individually, given the dosages, you know, it's there. But with their powers combined, I think that just creates a very nice aromatic accord. So let's shake. Let's dip. And then we'll do our final two fragrance families. We'll put herbal number 4. We've got 2 more. We are going to do some aldehydes and bergamot, and then we're going to get into the animalic notes. Let's start with this bergamot first. Given what we've already put in here, I can't say I'm going to expect to be able to smell this. Oh, okay, it's almost time to make more bergamot. 0.35 grams, here we go. Okay. Bergamot is possibly one of the most common ingredients in all of perfumery. Maybe outside of Isoi Super and Hedione. Okay, now our aldehydes. C12, MNA at 1%. Oh. So just a little, barely a drop. That is enough. That is enough. Next up, aldehyde C12, lauric, or dodecanol. Again, 1%. Okay, got 1.011. Just need a little splash. Here we go. Good. Good, good. Again, even with the aldehydes, the small amounts in here, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to pick them up. But we will test it. Dip. We're going to write ald and bergamot, number 5. And then finally, friends, we are going to add all of the animalis and costus olefac. All right, let's start with the costus. This is at 1%. Costus olefac made by IFF. This stuff is nasty. I think costus is a root. Can't imagine digging up a root and then thinking to myself, boy, I should put that in perfumery. But this stuff is just dirty. I'm not even sure how to explain it, what it smells like. Like dirty, wet goat. It's about 4 drops. Yeah, it's weird stuff. It's like a damp, it's wet, damp, animalic. It smells like dirty, wet fur, dirty, wet animal hair. Now, animalis 1745, I am out of pipettes. Get my knife. Always keep a knife handy in case there's cheesecake or you need to kill someone. I heard that is a quote from General Mattis. I find it is handy in case you need to open up a box of pipettes or Amazon. And this is the last one. Okay. So, animalis. This is animalic. Animalic in a fecal sense. It's warm though. It's warm. It's wonderful. I don't know if I would liken this to a deer musk, a Tonkin deer musk replacer. Yeah, okay. The odor description says it's a warm, powerful, slightly leathery Tonkin musk-like note. Yeah. I hesitated there because though there are hints of that Tonkin musk reconstitution, I have a bunch of those, by the way. This is just, it's a bit more fecal. It's a bit dirtier. But let's lay it in here. We got 0.6 grams at 10%. I'm going to give this a really good shake when we're all done. Okay. Okay. If you don't have the Animalis 1745, I think you can get away with the other, they have other Animalises, like Animalis 27, Animalis Hypo 27 and triethyl citrate from, again, from Cinnarome. Otherwise, just use any of the Tonkin musk replacers. Oranone, Touch, Nearly Dear from Freighterworks. That's a good one. Shangri-Lide, Tonkatone. Tonkatone is a bit more Uranus, but I think I think a lot of those would work just fine. So let's shake, shake, shake. I can't say that again. There's a song they played to little kids. You gotta shake, shake, shake your wiggles out. Shake, shake, shake. You know that song? Are you a parent? Have you heard that song before? I'll tell you what, when you become a parent, all the cliches about they grow up so fast, you know, oh, it's hard, like all that's true. No one tells you that you're going to start singing kids songs. Like the things that keep you awake at night sometimes are repetitive kid songs that you just can't get out of your head. So let's dip this. And then I am also going to put a little on my skin. I'll let it, I'm not going to rub it. Hold on to your britches. Not going to rub it. Okay, I can already smell this. This is close to Kouros, at least from a whiff. The sillage is telling me this is close to Kouros. But let's smell our base. This was the unassuming musks, ambroxan, vanillin, coumarin, really unassuming stuff. A little sandalwood as well. Yeah, funny, I'm actually getting the vanillin in here. The coumarin's noticeable, but only slightly. It's balancing very well with the musks, with the galaxolide, the tonalide. It's warm, it's musky, and this is a nice blend. Not one note is really popping out more so than any others. Now here we added those more woody notes. Now wood include like tree trunk wood, but then also like pine needle wood, right? There's two wood notes are a barbell, and on either end you have like cedar wood, and then you have all the pine, the terpenic sharp notes. I say that because I have olibanum or frankincense in my woody notes section, even though it's more on, it doesn't smell like cedar wood, dry, woody. It's like terpenic, right? Anyway, we have all the woody notes. We have our cedral acetate, our vetiver, our olibanum, our patchouli, but we also added veramos and isobutylquinoline. Okay, the isobutylquinoline is right there. It's right there. The patchouli's adding a nice warmth to it. This is a nice base. Okay, maybe sans pyrrolone. The pyrrolone is pushing it into a leather direction, but otherwise, this is nicely balanced. I can see how this is a great base for a fougere. I'm just itching to add some geranium and lavender and dihydromercenol. We're off to a good start as far as just trying to get our nose on something that's blended well, like with, you know, good ratios, interesting ingredients. We're off to a good start. Next up, the florals. We had 3 floral categories: the muguet, the violet, and the rose, and the generic florals. This adds a lot of body, and a lot of brightness. Funny enough, the aurantiol, I think, combined with the methyl ionone and those uplifting lily of the valley notes, is giving this a nice fruity floral brightness. I say fruity in the way that methyl anthranilate is fruity. Methyl anthranilate to me is very floral, but it's got that grape fruity note. Not grapefruit, but grape-like fruit. And there's a powdery edge to this. Maybe that's coming from the ethyl ionone combined with the veramos and the pyrrolone. But there's a dry, powdery edge to this. That's nice. Notably stronger. This beefs up the strength, notably, from the previous strip. All the herbal notes. This includes the green notes like the galbanum, stearyl acetate, and the warm clove, not clove, yeah, the clove leaf and the eugenol. Oh, wow. Okay, first thing that comes to mind is a nice herbal aromatic addition to that beautiful floral. This really forks. This takes the fragrance, it just forks off into a different direction with the addition of all the herbal notes. The thujone from the armoise is coming through, and interestingly enough, right now I almost smell Azzaro pour Homme. If we were to stop here, I'd be like, oh, we're making Azzaro pour Homme. That is uncanny. That is interesting. That is very interesting. Underneath that Azzaro pour Homme, I am getting the Kouros core, the Kouros base, which I'm also finding interesting. I'm kind of excited about this formula. This has been really good so far. I'm hoping we finish strong. What happens when we aldehyde? What happens when we aldehyde the additions? And bergamot. Let's see. Aldehydes are noticeable. Bergamot, not so much. But the aldehydes are complementing the aromatic notes. They're adding a dry waxiness on top. A little fuzz. That's nice. Very subtle. It's interesting I can even pick up on them. That's funny enough on its own because we added 3 drops of aldehydes at 1%. So that's even interesting. But we're still going in the right direction. Sometimes when I go strip by strip, I pick up a subsequent strip and I'm like, huh, I don't know which way we're headed. I don't know. I don't like all those ingredients, how they're mixing. But this one, every strip along the way has been fantastic. Now let's smell the final thing with all the animalic notes. Yeah. Yeah. This is a Kouros type formula. This is brilliant. I would even say, I have not smelled vintage formulations of Kouros. I would say that if I didn't know any better, I would say either this is Kouros that I get right off the shelf, or perhaps this was a different formulation. But the soul of the fragrance is here. Not only the soul, the meat and bones of the fragrance, and even the skin. Maybe the hair is a different color, but it's almost all there. This is wonderful. This is going to mature, I think, really well. Let's get it on skin. Okay. Animalic notes are strong, but you know, this was just blended. Okay, I'm gonna stop. With Labtorium, I have found them to be kind of like perfume archaeology, hit or miss. The hits are a hit. The misses for Labtorium haven't really been like a swing and a miss. They've been more like foul balls, where you're still putting it in play, or like maybe a pop out. You're still putting it in play. I'm sorry for the baseball reference for you, my non-American viewers who maybe have never watched baseball. For example, the Hobby Rouge study formula that's available on Labtorium's website must be the 1965 vintage formulation. Because if you make that, maybe I'll make this one day. If you make that and you smell it compared to today's Hobby Rouge, night and day, like on opposite sides of the earth, you would be like, this is a completely different fragrance family, different fragrance decade, like night and day. Was it a good study formula? Sure. I feel like I got to learn what the fragrances were like way back in the day because it feels so out of date. You take our recent L'Eau d'Essai that we made, another complementary study formula from Fragrantica. Same fragrance family. I'm sorry, not from Fragrantica, my English, mixing things up. It's from Labtorium. Same fragrance family, same fragrance style, but notably different from the actual juice. So I'm not sure where they got the information for that GCMS analysis, where they reconstructed that. But also I'd say a miss. Still valuable because the study of the formula itself is great. But in any case, yeah, hit or miss, always a win, it feels like, because I'm always learning something. If you're looking to make something that smells like Kouros, and you want to understand the parts of that Kouros-like formula, I think this is a gold mine. I think this is going to mature well. This is going to blend well. Yeah, good job, Labtorium. Congrats. And to all of you watching, Thank you for hanging out with me, and I will see you next time.